Okay, well, I'd like to bring, I got my gavel. I'd like to bring the Windsor Board of Education special meeting, which is being done virtually, Wednesday, May 1st, to order. If we could all stand for a pledge of the flag and then a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Thank you for the flag. It's a grand old flag. Okay, just as any other meeting, regular board meeting, the special board meeting, we have also audience to visitor. So at this point, Robin, if you could read your script.
Good evening. This is Robin Daly from the Superintendent's Office. If anyone from the public would like to address the board, you may do so in two ways. You may type your name, address, and comment into the Q&A feature in the Zoom application, or you may speak by clicking raise hand or dialing *9 within the Zoom app. When you are called on to speak, you will be given 3 minutes to state your name, address, and comment. Please do not place the call on speakerphone. No comments can be made against the employees of the school district or children outside of your own, and no comments will be made by the board at this time.
Okay, Ms. Taylor will interrupt if someone has gone over the 3-minute mark, and will tell you to finish your remarks. Is there anybody with a hand raised?
Let's see. It looks as though there is. Let's see. There we go. And Ms. Zotter, you are now unmuted.
Hello, distinguished members of the Board of Education. I hope you are not tired of hearing from me, but I actually have a request for you, or to assistance, asking for your assistance. I have spoken to a lot of, Tracy Zotter, 28 Spring Street, Windsor, Connecticut. My daughter is Ariella Trifone. She goes to school at John F. Kennedy School. My apologies. I've spoken to a lot of parents who are struggling to make sense of the budget in layman's terms, and have also not necessarily understood where to go to get the information. So I'm part of the PTO and been working to try to figure out how to bridge some gaps in pushing out some information to our parents. I know we have forums with Dr. Hill. I know we have upcoming events coming up from the town. Is there a way that we can, as a Board of Education, as Windsor Public Schools, figure out a way to really communicate the importance of this particular budget referendum coming up on the 14th? I do intend on going to one of the sessions on May 7th at Pequannock School to maybe put some planted questions in there regarding the fact that we had to cut $2 million, and you know what, it saved me a whole $20 on my taxes. So really just trying to figure out how can we get that information more readily available to our families so we can encourage them to go out and vote on May 14th. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that statement that you made, because we do obviously want an informed electorate. Is there anyone else, Ms. Daly, that would like to address the board?
At this time, there are no additional hands raised. There are no comments in the Q&A feature or in the chat.
Then without objection, I'm going to close audience to visitor. The next item is item number 3, the budget for 2024, 2025. And I'm looking for a motion. Ms. Taylor?
Yep, I'm trying to come off mute. I move to accept the 1 million reduction to the Board of Education's 2024-2025 recommended budget as detailed in the document provided by Danielle Batchelder, Director of Business Services and HR, dated May 1st, 2024.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion made by Ms. Taylor, seconded by Mr. Panos, and I see, Ms. Cantor, you have your hand raised.
Yes, I would like to make a substitution motion to not include the nursing position among those being cut. I feel very strong about my position on this topic. I want to know why LPW students are treated differently. They are being denied immediate nursing care when compared to other students in the Windsor Public Schools. This is not equal treatment to LPW students. All the schools have a nurse or nurses staffed in the school during school hours with the exception of LPW. Why are you denying LPW students immediate nursing care? A nurse on call to physically go to LPW is not the same as a nurse physically there to provide immediate timely treatment for standard of care and safe care. All students must be treated equally.
Do you have an item that, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Substitute motion made by Ms. Cantor, seconded by Mr. Panos. The question I have for you, Ms. Cantor, is do you have something that you'd be substituting for that cut?
At this time, I defer to Dr. Hill for his recommendation of where to cut a position or positions, please. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wants to speak to this motion?
No.
I'm Mr. Panos?
Yeah, I'm.
Mr. Panos?
Yes. Can you hear me? Yeah. Can you hear me?
I can.
You do. Okay.
I can hear you.
Yep. I think that this requires some response here, some consideration. I believe that Ms. Cantor is suggesting that there is some sort of potential legal exposure to the district if we do not have adequate coverage in the immediate building. We do for all the other buildings. So I think that's the main difference. So if you could address that point, how we would handle let's say something that required some sort of immediate nurse's attention, and compare it with the attention that is available in the other building. That's a question to Ms. Batchelder and Dr. Hill.
Dr.
Terrell,
Hill,
you
if
want
you
me to
could
go?
answer that.
I think he's frozen.
I'm not frozen. I have to wait for the president
Oh.
to tell me what to do. That's the protocol. I was like waiting for Mr. Panos' question. I saw Mr. Halleck's hand go up while Mr. Panos was speaking, so I had to wait for President Fury to tell me. So you want me to answer that right now, President Fury, or do we want Mr. Halleck's comment? Because his hand went up while Mr. Panos was speaking.
David, you're on mute.
You're on mute.
Yeah, he can wait. He can get Jeremy's response first.
Okay, then Mr. Halleck?
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, I do understand where Ms. Cantor is coming from. At this point in time, I can't support her motion. I feel the administration has a good plan as far as covering LPW. I believe the email said that somebody as needed would be coming over from Windsor High School for that. And since there's only, I believe, about 30 students over there at LP at this time, please correct me if I'm wrong. But if I'm not, it doesn't make sense to put a full-time nurse there at this time. However, I do think it is something that the board should continue watch and be aware of, and maybe even get a update in November or December, just before the budget comes up for next year, so we can discuss it further at that time and see where we are. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Dr. Hill.
Okay, and then I'll call in Ms. Batchelder after I say this piece. So thank you all for your points. As we shared before, I just want to clarify again, there is no legal liability to have a nurse at every school. We've checked on this and we're very clear on this. The law does not require you to have a nurse at every school. And this nurse was also one of our ESSER positions. So that was just, something that we definitely could use with all the extra safety precautions that were going on at the time. And that's what the monies were for. And so we have never had a nurse there. I'm not saying like things could not change because something's never, but I'm just being clear that, historically there's not been a nurse at LP Wilson. And it's not a legal requirement to have a nurse at each site. Ms. Batchelder, is there anything you want to add?
Yes, thank you. So I just want to explain it's not about LPW. So we currently have more nurses than we have schools. That's first off. Second, again, like Dr. Hill said, we're not required by law to have a nurse at a school. Third, we only added the ESSER nurse because we had to due to COVID at LPW, which allowed us to not have our nursing supervisor at a school. So right now, with our current staffing, we could staff every single elementary school with one nurse, Sage Park with 2, high school with 2, and LPW with 9 nurses. It was the floating nurse that was originally asked and granted by the Board of Ed a year or 2 before COVID hit. And that was to more or less free up our nursing supervisor. But with our current staff, we can cover every building. And then we have buildings that have more than one nurse in them. I just want to make sure it wasn't that LPW would not have a nurse. That additional ESSER nurse allowed the nursing supervisor to do all of the mandates from COVID with all, like when someone got COVID, she did everything soup to nuts on the tracking and when they could come back, making sure all of the documents from the doctors were in order with Jenny Waldo from the town. So that was the reason why we did it. It was to free up the nursing supervisor to do all of the requirements by state law for COVID.
Is there anybody else who'd like to speak to this motion? And I don't have anybody else before I grant Ms. Cantor a second bite. Seeing none, Ms. Cantor?
I can do that. I was trying to raise my hand.
Oh, sorry. I didn't see Ayanna.
No, it's okay.
Ms. Taylor, then Ms. Cantor.
Thank you. No, just thanking Dr. Hill and Ms. Batchelder for the clarity on this. I was confused by the substitute motion because of the fact that I know that there's multiple nurses where my kids go to school. So I just was glad to hear the clarity that we actually have more nurses than schools, and that's reassuring. So thank you.
Ms. Cantor?
Thank you. Is Nurse Denegris staffed at LPW or in that school, in that building during LPW students' days, the hours there? Or does she go out and leave at any time so that nurse would not be there? No one would be there providing care should an emergency occur.
So she can go out to different places around the district, but I'll just reiterate, Ms. Cantor, we've never had a nurse at LP Wilson. It's not fiscally sound to try to staff that. Ms. Batchelder explained while we ended up with a nurse there. So that's never been on the radar for our budget. It's not on my radar for the budget at all, especially
Okay.
in such a tight time.
I understand that. I understand that, but this has been a
But I'm trying
situation.
to answer. I think.
No, I know,
don't
but
let that go.
it's been a situation and you
But
have
if,
not had a nurse there. And I
Point of order, I
question
just feel like we should let Dr. Hill finish before we
I
continue.
just trying to explain over, so we don't, again, as I said, it's not fiscally sound. I'm not, I understand your point, but I'm just trying to answer what you had just asked the second time. So Nurse Julie will move wherever she's needed at the time. So there will not be a nurse, just to be clear, sitting at LP Wilson all day during the student school day.
Can I speak now?
Yes,
Okay, thank you. I'm just concerned because if something happens, who is there, knowing what goes on today? It's not the same as it was all these years ago. It's gotten progressively worse with things happening. So I just want to know, like, what someone, by the time someone gets there, it could be too late. I just want you to know I'm well aware of that. And that's not standard of care and safe care. And I'm just concerned. I know the budget's tight. I'm concerned that students will not be treated the same if she's gone, given the fact it's an emergency. We already know the timeliness of an ambulance and the problems that this town has had in the past 2 years or 3 years with emergency care for treatment. So I just wanted to put that up front so you know. And I think the public should know that I know you never staffed a nurse there full time, but Nurse DeNegris is not there 100% of the time if there's an emergency.
Is there anyone else who wants to speak to the motion?
If I may, Mr. Fury, is that okay?
Yes, Ms. Batchelder.
So I just wanted to also point out that our nursing supervisor isn't at LPW currently every day and hasn't been. So because we've had a lot of FMLAs, we've had a lot of leave of absences this year with our nursing staff. There are many days that there is not a nurse at LPW currently. So I just wanted to point that out, that we're not, it's not like she's sitting there as the nurse for, 15, 20 kids at a time. And also with what you're referring to, I'm just guessing on what you're referring to with emergencies. We've definitely upped the ante that we have for all of our medical bags, and all of our administrators are being trained on, the EpiPens, on, Terrell, help me out, what's Narcan. And I also want to point out that when nurses are a contracted employee, they go to lunch every day. And we actually advise them and recommend them to go off-site so they don't get called upon, so they can actually eat their lunch. And it is the administrator's responsibility to take over that nursing office at that time.
So I'd like to bring this to a vote, and Ms. Daly, I'd like you to call the roll, to have a roll call vote.
Absolutely.
So the motion was made by Ms. Cantor, seconded by Mr. Panos, a substitute motion to add the nursing position back in. Ms. Daly?
Jill Cantor,
Yes.
David Fury,
No.
Jeremy Halleck,
No.
Anthony King,
No.
Leonard Lockhart,
No.
James Madison,
No.
Paul Panos,
Yes.
Ayanna Taylor,
No.
2 yes. 7, I'm sorry, 2 yes, 5 no.
Right.
Oh my gosh.
Was
Me
there an
and numbers
No,
tonight.
right. We're 8, right?
Yeah,
Yes,
there's 8 of us.
yes.
6.
So 2 yes, 6 no.
So the motion fails. We'll now go to the main motion, which was made by Ms. Taylor, seconded by Mr. Panos. And Dr. Hill, before we get into a discussion by board members, I don't know if there's anything else you want to add or describe to us about how you went about this difficult thing, because obviously all these positions were in your original budget.
Thank you, President Fury. So yes, and if there's any question that needs to be fleshed out even more, just let me know. But the quick overview of how we made this next level cut was, again, trying to stay away from that classroom, because that's the sacred space in the school system. And we knew we had to cut the money. So there was no fluff in the first budget. There's no fluff now. And we just looked at positions that we could cut and not change the work that we're doing in the district. And so that's what Ms. Batchelder and I did. And I absolutely did not want to cut into my teaching staff. So that's the last thing I wanted to do. So I wanted to find as many cuts as possible that would be away from the classroom, away from the teaching staff. I think that has the worst impact. Even as late as earlier this evening, I saw the news about Hartford. Already 30 educators gone, and there's going to be, according to the news, a few hundred more coming up. I understand budgets very well and money very well, but there's a cultural shift that happens when you start cutting the core positions in our profession. And I don't want Windsor, as I've said a few times, even to the town council, to become one of those districts where teachers are reluctant to apply because they think we're the district that just gets rid of people. And there are districts across the state, even in Hartford County here, that have that reputation already long before COVID, and they struggle to fill all their spots every year because they're like typically a district of later choice. I won't say last, but later choice. So that was the thinking going into these cuts.
Is that it, Dr. Hill? Anything else?
That's it. Thank you.
Okay, discussion. Trying to see if there's a hand raised. Ms. Taylor, as maker of the motion, if you have anything you'd like to add, and then Mr. King.
I'd like to go last. Thank you, Mr. Fury.
Okay, Mr. King.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. President. I have to admit that this is a really depressing moment for me. As a new person to the Board of Education in Windsor here, my intention was never to join the board and be in a situation where we are voting to cut roles and lay folks off. I'm particularly not incensed, but depressed by it, because we do have a mechanism in the town for a referendum where we could have put this to the voters and had a conversation with them around what they support and let them know what was going to lose. But we unfortunately did not get that chance because the town council has made the decision to reduce the budget and our investment in education without doing that step first, which I find particularly disappointing. As you can see, it's resulting in cuts to staff members. And for those people that are going to ultimately lose their jobs today and their livelihoods, not today, but in the immediate future, I just want to apologize to them and let them know that we probably should have done better. We could have done better, but unfortunately we just didn't get there. I appreciate, though, however, Dr. Hill and Ms. Batchelder and everyone else on the staff and the administration who have taken the time to be really considerate about the cuts and absorb the budget in a way that does not affect educators, as Dr. Hill has done their best to not affect educators, as Dr. Hill has pointed out. So while I personally never saw myself voting for a decrease or a layoff of staff, and I do not take that lightly, it is not my conscience to do, I want to support the Dr. Hill and the administration because I do feel they've been very thoughtful and very protective of making sure our education can still continue as best as possible in light of what the council has given us from a budget. So from that standpoint, I will vote yes today, even though I did not necessarily agree with any form of cut, but I recognize that we don't have a choice, right? So that being said, I just want to stand in support of Dr. Hill and the administration and thank them for their time and consideration on this. And hopefully we never have to do this again, but see. Thank you.
Thank you. I don't know if you can hear me, Mr. Lockhart. Mr. Lockhart, then Mr. Madison.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm also in strong agreement with the previous speakers' sentiments on this particular matter. Very disappointed, definitely in the area that, well, first of all, it's not the superintendent's budget, it's the Board of Ed's budget. The superintendent proposed it. We adopted it as a board, no matter good, bad, and different on the vote. It was a board-approved budget that went before the town council. So in that aspect, $1 million was cut from the budget from the town council as the appropriators. So I want to thank Dr. Hill and his staff for being very thoughtful in the cuts that they made. Very disappointing that we're going to lose $250,000 in the area of major maintenance, as well as that's tied to labor to execute that major maintenance. And we're losing other stuff as well that, quite frankly, I don't support. I don't support any cuts to this budget, but by me voting no, it would be disrespectful to Dr. Hill and his staff for making the thoughtful cuts to be as far away from the classrooms as possible. So I will vote in favor of this motion. And also under the motion, if you happen to do a roll call vote, I would like to actually put my sentiments on the record as well, expressing why I'm supporting the motion, but at the same time, it's with deep regret. And it's going to put us in a very difficult situation where the staff that we have left over are going to have to work a little bit harder and to really, really make sure that we can execute and actually keep the buildings actually looking like an educational environment conducive for learning and safe for our kids.
You know what I mean? No. And I put it down and I like bought the container on the thing and I turned around and it's gone.
Mr. Madison?
Yeah, thank you. I'll be brief. I just want to say thank you to the administration for, riding the razor's edge on this. It's tough to make cuts without hitting staff too heavily. And this is a tricky maneuver. So I just want to say, well done. Budgets suck and tight budgets suck more, but well done. That's all.
I don't see any other hands raised. I don't know if other than Miss Taylor. So Miss Taylor?
Thank you, Mr. Fury. Fiscal responsibility often involves making, budgetary cuts, to align spending and to ensure that things are balanced. And, when we're in a reval situation, in the town and things are tight. Things are tighter than normal. Families are going to feel it. I'm going to feel it. You're going to feel it. Everybody on this call is going to feel it. Everybody that's, listening in, from their homes is going to feel it. And I said from the beginning when we started, this process, equity means everyone shoulders up as a community, and not everybody gets exactly what they want. That's just the way it goes. To say, one space in town needs to feel it and not another space in town. It depends on who you're speaking to, what they're passionate about and what makes things run. I mean, the cost of business, right? We talk a lot about contractual agreements. We knew that there's things that we couldn't, necessarily touch. But then there's some things that for now, we don't get that we're used to. And this is not just on the Board of Education side, but this is on the town side too. And it is difficult, the decisions that folks have to make that we were elected to make. These difficult decisions that affect people, affect children, affect families in hard times. We went through COVID, and even though money didn't make it better, we were able to do some really amazing things in town, especially Windsor Public Schools. We were smart about the spending. Dr. Hill and the team thought it was forward thinking to say, you know what, when we get back, what are the kids going to need? And it wasn't just math and science and reading. They needed assistance. We all did. And it's irresponsible to think that when that money goes away, that it's just going to come from somewhere else. And I'm not of the mindset to rob Peter to pay Paul. I think it needs to be it needed to be intentional. It needs to be with thought and with your heart. And I think we did that. Then the town council had to do the same thing. And it's not easy, again, because they're not just keeping Windsor Public Schools in mind, but the entire town and every citizen. And again, you're not going to make everybody happy. That's impossible. It's impossible. I think we all look at the $1 million cut, and there's something on there that we say, dag, you know what? I wish that was still in there. A person like me, I'm looking at how we can get new schools. Hard to do when we got to cut $1 million, but guess what? Everyone is feeling it. And I don't take it lightly, not just the head count, but the budget from each school. Principals had plans, things that they wanted to do, and that's now cut. But because we are a community, because we're all feeling it together, we can get creative about how we can do better, be more forward thinking, be more planful. I believe, and my kids may never walk into a new school in Windsor, but at some point we're going to get there. And I think we have the right people in place to get there. It's just not this year. So I am the maker of the motion. I appreciate the support on the motion, but I also understand people who just don't understand how we could cut something and be okay with it, because we're not okay. None of us are. And to the speaker that mentioned, going around and sharing what this means for our families, I completely agree. We need to do better with sharing out the why and the how we landed at. And $1 million, it is a lot of money. But again, everyone kind of shaving a little bit to support the end result where, fiscally, we're gonna all feel it. So I appreciate Dr. Hill and team. I appreciate this entire board. We're just all going to have to make some adjustments this time around, and hopes, and I do have the hope that it won't always be this way. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I don't see a hand raised. So at this point, as Mr. Lockhart suggested, Ms. Daly, I'm going to have you do the roll call. And if people, they always have the right to explain their vote if they'd like to. Ms. Daly?
Jill Cantor,
No.
David Fury, David Fury,
Yes.
Jeremy Halleck,
Yes. Yes.
Anthony King,
Yeah, like I said, I'm voting yes because I support the administration and the place, but I really truly believe we should have gotten the consent of the voters, like the speakers we've heard tonight, et cetera, first. But yes.
Leonard Lockhart,
I will vote yes for the motion. I believe this should have been given to the voters to vote. I believe that the cuts that were made to us in this budget are going to sting and sting for a long time. We've been in this position before and quite really haven't recovered. And I believe that the ESSER funds and the way they were utilized actually showed that we were making progress with K through 3 and making sure that we have things going on. So we've absorbed those back into the budget, but it came at a cost too steep as a board member that I'm not very comfortable with at all. But I do support the work of the superintendent. So based off of that, I will vote in favor of the motion.
James Madison,
Yes.
Paul Panos,
Yes.
Ayanna Taylor,
Yes.
7 yes, 1 no.
So the motion passes. This time, I'd like to see if there's any announcements. I'll go back and forth, starting with James. Any announcements?
No. All set. Thank you.
Mr. King.
Just congratulations to Nathan. He had his wedding this weekend. So I know he's not here because he's on his honeymoon, but congratulations to him.
Woohoo! Mr. Halleck.
Congratulations to Mr. Williston. Also take a point of personal privilege. My wife and I are celebrating our 8th anniversary on Monday, so I would like to say happy anniversary to her. Thank you.
Congratulations. Mr. Lockhart.
Congratulations to Mr. Williston, and I'm hoping that he's having a great time with his new wife, and look forward to safe passage of him and his wife coming back home to us.
Ms. Cantor.
Thank you. I just want to thank the board for working hard at doing this, and don't forget it's Mother's Day this month too.
Ms. Taylor.
Congratulations to Nathan and Dana. Beautiful, beautiful wedding for a beautiful couple. Congratulations to you, Jeremy, and your wife, Katie. And congratulations to all of our seniors. It was decision day, and it was great to see on social media all of the decisions of all the places where they're going. And it's just amazing to see these kids that I blinked. They were 5 years old and now they're going off to school. Congratulations, Adia Hill. I saw she's going to Emerson College. And again, all the seniors class of 2025, love to see all the places you will go. That's it.
Thank you. Mr. Panos.
Paul, you're muted.
You're on mute. Yeah.
Paul, you're okay.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. Yeah. Congratulations to Daniel, Nathan, and also congratulations to Mr. Halleck, who apparently has no regrets after 8 years. And I hope we observe a Mother's Day. Thank you.
Thank you. And from me, congratulations to Nathan and Dana and Katie and Jeremy. And thank you, Dr. Hill and your staff for all your work you've done with the budget. I know this hasn't been easy, and we appreciate everybody, all board members, but Nathan able to make this meeting because May is such a busy month. that, I'm looking for one more motion.
Motion to adjourn?
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion made by Ms. Taylor, seconded by Mr. Panos. I'm assuming no discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions. Motion carries 800. We are adjourned at 8:14. Thank
Good
you.
night.